I made a momentous decision. It's December the 29th or 30th, and I'm going to publish my memoirs. Now, you know, I love memoirs myself. I'm always reading them, and I just went to the library yesterday and got a couple. I love them, and when you've got a story, especially when you think that it's unusual or it's something that could illuminate a certain area of human relations, problems, I think you've got an especially good subject for a memoir. And why I think that I could write, why my memoir would be valuable to the public is because when I was 5 years old, I was abducted by the hired man, a stranger. We didn't know very much about him, and I was molested. And then he let me go, and he did this 3 times before I could figure out how to protect myself or what to do about it. And there were a whole lot of reasons why I didn't tell. I didn't just run and tell my mother and dad when he let me go. For one thing, I thought that he would be killed. He would be murdered. That my dad would not be able to restrain himself. Why? Because my dad was a cattle rancher. He was, you might say, out of the Wild West. And I'd heard him threaten to kill people. A rustler, somebody who rustled his cattle. And so I just thought there's just no way around it. He is not going to wait for the law. He won't even think about it. He will just blow him away. So I felt that I had to decide whether he deserved to die or not. At 5 years old, that was, and I could just feel this just stressing and straining my mind so bad that, because there was another complication that I think would make this memoir valuable. I thought, even at 5, that my dad and the man were having a homosexual affair. Now, I didn't even hardly know what homosexuality was at the time, but I just saw enough that I started trying to think, well, men must do this. I'd vaguely heard of it, and but the more I observed how my dad and he were acting, the more I thought that this was what was going on. So I had to think about, well, if my dad is like this, and my mother had a new baby, and I had another sister, and I thought, and I was the oldest, you know, and I loved to go with my dad. I loved to ride horses. I loved being his companion out on the trails. So this went on all during my childhood. Me thinking about what my dad was like, how he had got to be this way, why it was so secret, why he didn't dare tell anybody about it. And when I was 10, another molester came into the picture, and he wasn't quite as bad or scary as the other one, but by that time my mind was just so stressed and strained with, well, my dad's drinking for one thing. He was just a suicidal drunk, as well as a good cowboy, a good manager. He was, if he could just stop drinking, he was going to make a lot of money. But I knew why he was trying to kill himself. I knew exactly why, because all of this conflict, I was sure, was affecting him, and there just wasn't any way that he could feel good about it. And yet he couldn't talk about it. He absolutely couldn't, because the women didn't even seem to know that there was such a thing going on. I thought I knew more by that time. I had more ideas about what this could be all about than most of the adult women. So.
And you were how old?
well, this started at 5, and then all during my childhood I was gathering more, you know, and I started to become a voracious reader. I just had to find out what this was all about, if there was anything in books that would help me to handle this or explain it, and I did every once in a while. I'd find something in a book that would sort of give me something to go on and how to handle this very complicated situation, because my mother and dad didn't get divorced. They had 5 children. And so that was, and my dad would still party with, oh no, it's hard to tell, because my mother was so upset with how he behaved. He would go off and party every weekend with the man. And I knew why he had to do that. In fact, Mother said, I think there's women, I think they're, I said, no, Mother. I remember saying, Daddy does not like women. He's cold to women, so don't worry, there's no women involved. My mom wouldn't say, well, there must be something.
Can I ask you a question here? How come he just didn't name you Ralph? I mean,
well, Jerry. Jerry was my name. Jerry. And I couldn't be a son. And I always knew.
Do you remember when Johnny Cash did a song called A Boy Named Sue?
Yes, right.
And his father told him, you're going to have to fight a lot, kid, when you grow up, you know.
But anyway, my benefactor here, Doc, he is pushing me to do these memoirs. He's offered to defray some of the costs. And
defray? What is that? I thought defray was like a portion. I'm paying for the whole damn thing. What are you talking about?
Oh well, listen, my sister just wrote and said that there was money in the fund that they would probably contribute to it, and I don't know how I'm going to sell it. But
when the piggy bank shows up and you start shaking it and you hear nothing but coins, you know. Well, we were working on that for a while, honey, but you know, we love you and all that, but.
And you know, this doesn't just end. The story doesn't just end in a very unusual way. But it goes on to, like, when I'm 20, I'm trying to get this out. I'm trying to be able to talk about it, and I ended up in a mental hospital. Oh, Lord God. Threatened with electric shock.
Let's hear all about it.
I was terribly indignant. I said, I am not crazy. You know, I had good reason to be stressed and strained, but I felt I had a good solid brain, a good mind, and, you know, to cope with all of this. So, I'm going to write this story called
I thought you already read it.
I have, but I'm going to rewrite it. You always have to rewrite. You have to, when you're going to get ready for publication.
You told me you didn't want to rewrite.
You have to work really hard on that last copy that you want to go and actually be published in a book form. You know, that's the big step. So that's what I'm going to be working on. And for the new year, that's my project. So I'm happy about it. Very happy. Thank you.
Wait a minute. I'm happy too.